Okay, good morning,
Or you
everyone.
need no.
This morning, we are taking up JRH 9, which is a joint resolution urging the American Speech Language Hearing Association
No, you
to
do.
reconsider its opposition to rapid prompting method of communication instruction for students with apraxia, speech, or autism. And so we have invited Chris Medina to speak this morning. And Chris uses another method of communication. Some people call it assisted typing. Some people call it facilitated communication. There's a couple of different names for it. And Chris, we are going to do introductions around the room, and then we'll ask you to introduce yourself as well as the folks that you brought with you today. Okay.
Okay.
I'm Teresa Wood, and it's nice to see you, Chris. I'm from Waterbury,
You know, yeah.
and I also serve Bolton, Buellscore, and Huntington. And this time we'll go this way.
Hi, Chris. I'm Rachel Solano. I represent Essex and Essex Junction. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Chris. Welcome.
I.
I'm Jubilee McGill, and I represent Bridport, Middlebury, New Haven, and Weybridge.
Good morning, I'm Esme and I represent Hartford.
We'll let Zahn make his way around here.
It's okay.
Our rooms are small, so we're just doing introductions, Zahn, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Zon Eastis. I'm in Guilford and I also represent Vernon, Monmouth State.
Good morning, I'm Doug Bishop and I represent Colton.
Hi, good morning. Eric McGuire, I represent Rutland City.
Good morning, I'm Dan Noyes. I represent Wolcott, Hyde Park, Johnson, and Belvedere.
And then Amy will go right around the outside.
Amy Johnson, I work.
Chris Kirsten Market.
Chelsea, and also from the Vermont Development Disabilities Council.
And Lori.
And Christopher over here in the corner and Lori.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Chris, the floor is yours to introduce yourself and the people you brought with you, and to give us your testimony.
Yeah.
Good. Morning. Hi. Chris. Medina. From. Beery. Town. Good morning, I'm Chris Medina from Beery Town. I. Have. My. Typing. partner, Shasta, and my mom,
Nu given me I. Nu given me I pink. Hoe zeg je me ja?
Sharon. I have my typing partner Shasta and my mom Sharon.
Ja.
Welcome. Welcome
Ja, I
to the
know.
House Human Services Committee, and we're glad to have you all here. And
Given me I.
the floor is yours, Chris. That's what we say here when it's time for you to give your testimony. So it's an opportunity, and thank you.
Nu given me
You
I.
provided us a written copy as well, so thank you for that. And
Welcome.
we're ready to hear from you.
Why?
Because you have a lot to say.
Please. Ignore. My words. I speak. My typing is my true. Thoughts. Please ignore my words. I speak my typing as my true thoughts.
the I.
I will be using AI for my spoken. Testimony. I will be using AI for my spoken testimony.
Hello to the House Human Service Committee. I'm Chris Medina from Barrytown, and I work for Green Mountain Self-Advocates, and I am autistic. I am passionate about working as a self-advocate and fighting for our rights. JRH9 is a huge deal to me and my typing friends here in Vermont because our means of communicating is life or death. I really think we typers push ourselves to advocate for basic rights because people think we are not intelligent or capable to determine our needs. I know what I need and I know what I want. To have access to my preferred method of communication is like having access to fresh air and clean drinking water. I attended Barrytown Elementary and Middle School, where I was educated alongside my peers. I am extremely lucky to have had typing in my life since second grade when I was introduced to facilitated communication, also known as supported typing, which ASHA has also opposed. With typing, all of my thoughts, needs, wants, and feelings that had been trapped inside my head came pouring out. Having this newly found sense of myself, my life changed. I now had the ability to truly communicate, to share what I knew, how I felt, and excel in academia through typing. Disabled Vermonters are owed the freedom to live like every other Vermonter. The state needs to prove that they care about Vermonters with disabilities and prioritize communication choice. One of my favorite quotes by Rosemary Crossley is, "Not being able to speak is not the same as having nothing to say." A lot of people believe that verbal speech is a showcase of the intelligence that people possess, holding on to the theory that if a person cannot speak using his or her own verbal speech, then he or she can't possibly receive information to process and understand. This way of thinking can be deadly to people's growth personally, and intellectually it limits opportunity and decreases one's overall quality of life. I urge the legislature to see me as the fellow Vermonter that I am and recognize typing as a legitimate way of communicating.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being here today. Are you ready to answer a couple of questions that we might have?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
So the ASHA, no, just because it's easier to say ASHA than the long name. They have long not supported the type of communication that you do. And you have provided some resources, which we appreciate in terms of the research in the background and what's happened here in Vermont in terms of the networks that do recognize your communication method. And can you speak to how communication, how the person who assists you to communicate, the person who is your assistant to the side, I'm sorry, I didn't really understand the pronunciation of your name.
Shasta.
Shasta, okay. How is Shasta and other people like Shasta, what kind of training do they receive?
Training. Training. 2. Support. Typing. partners. For me is A, belong.
Should. VVIP.
Process.
Mm.
Working.
It's good. VI.
Training to support typing partners for me is a long process working.
It's good there. 微信mij hell yeah.
Chris, do you train your typing partners, or do they receive, or in addition to that, I guess maybe, do they receive training from other people to show them how to assist you?
VI. 那没听过好那呀。Here we go.
It's A, process of formal. Training. With A, master. Trainer. And following.
Mm-mm.
Best. Practices. It's a process of formal training with a master trainer and following best practices.
I know.
And can you tell us who has established the best practices?
I believe
M-A-Z-I.
the best practices was developed in the wellspring guild and the Vermont
Easy eye pig. Honey pig. Hay. Beer.
communication task force.
Easy eye.
I believe the best practices was developed in the Wellspring Guild and the Vermont Communication Task Force.
Thank you. We have another member who has a question, Representative Garofalo.
Open me right.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for being here. I
Easy
wonder-
eye.
I wonder if you didn't have this available to you, if you have any other, what other means of communication would be available to you if you didn't have the typing?
We're gonna get down here soon. We're gonna get down here.
I know you see the time, 20 minutes.
And then we'll go back home?
We're gonna have lunch.
No. Easy eye. No. Easy eye. I don't want to want you know. Easy eye.
We'll focus on the question, right?
Easy eye. Oh, jury pig. I know.
thoughts? Actually. Hard. For. Me. Two. Thing.
Mhm.
About.
Mhm. I know.
Because. I.
Mhm.
Learned.
Mhm.
Died.
How old is he? I know. We know.
When.
Only know.
FC. Was. New. And.
Mhm.
There.
In with the eye.
Were in.
Mhm. With the eye.
iPads.
With the eye.
Thoughts actually hard for me to
Mhm.
think about because I learned to type when
With the
FC was
iPhone.
new and there weren't iPads.
Mhm. In with the eye, Pete.
I think technology has made a big
Yeah.
difference
With the eye.
in typing, for,
With the eye.
Chris, is it,
With the eye, Pete.
Chris, is it okay
Yeah.
if I, ask your mom and Shasta a question?
I know. What are you making out of soon? Give me the eye.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Cheek.
So,
With the eye, no.
Sharon, I guess I'm going to ask you first.
No.
What did it mean to
With the
you
eye,
as a
Give me
family
Kaya.
to learn that, Chris was learning all the time and he was, now able to communicate with you, things that he wasn't able to do before. And that must have been quite a, um, moment, I would imagine, in your family.
Well, I always knew there was more inside. He wasn't able to talk about, use his voice. So the person that had received some training through Syracuse University in New York, using FC, came to his school, and he was in second grade, beginning of second grade. And he asked me to prepare maybe 10 questions, simple questions, about his life and.
Yeah, you might need to shut the vacuum off again if you can't keep up to it. So,
Representative Steady, can you mute yourself, please?
well, if it's not keeping them, yeah. If it's keeping.
Keyboard. And the first few questions were, like yes and no questions. And then there was one question that kind of just broke down for me. And that was, where are the puppies? Because our dog had a litter of puppies. And he typed in the Ninja Turtle pool. And I just started crying, whatever. And the person that was facilitating him turned to me like, this can't be right or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it is right. Anyway, so that kind of was like the first instant. And from then on, we learned that he already knew how to read. He loved books. He used to go to bed with, I'd read him a story, we'd talk. I would sing to him or whatever, and, good night, and we'd close the door. And I'd come back up later just to check in, and he would literally have a mountain of books on his bed that he had fallen asleep with. So little by little, he started just participating more in the regular curriculum, and again, he had no formal instruction in reading, but he taught himself how to read, and was now typing these amazing things. So, he mentioned, I think in here that, that he excelled in academics and, was on the honors list all the way up through 8th grade. And high school was very successful in Spalding High School, ended up getting several scholarships, and went to the University of Vermont, got his bachelor's degree in English literature and disability studies. And that was the beginning of his advocacy work, where he was asked to present at conferences all over the United States. And he's still doing that now. So, and he works for GMSA and is very active in advocacy.
Mm-hmm. That's great. GMSA is Green Mountain Self Advocates, group of individuals who advocate for people with disabilities. Shasta, do you type with other people?
Yes.
So, and what kind of, how long did it take you to learn how to, like, the right kind of pressure and where individuals, because I know some people type with a hand on the shoulder, some people are further down on the wrist, I've noticed that you've been at the elbow and then sometimes at the, a little bit further down. How did you learn all of these things?
So, yeah, I started learning how to support people's communication 2013 with Pascal at Heart Center. And then fast forward to me working at Washington County and started working with Harvey, and the best practices that Chris talked about really is like my Bible when I'm supporting someone. I take that very seriously, and the thing that's made a difference for me is from day one seeing myself as a communication partner, and that really informs how I pay attention to people and notice things. Energy, anxiety, because it varies from day to day and person to person. So takes months of just getting to know the person and building trust and making those observations and seeing pretty much everything as communication. And then it's the start of, I would say, a mutual decision between the type or the communicator and the person supporting them of when it feels right to start. And we start with what's called like a ladder where we're doing predictive work. And that teaches me how to understand what's an intentional movement and what's not. And then from there, you just keep practicing. I think consistency is really, really important. And then you can sort of move through the ladder to more open-ended or more choice questions. So it takes years.
Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine that obviously each person is different, you know, so you have to learn how each person is reacting to, you know, whatever the situation they're in or the day that they're having or their emotions that day or anything like that. That's got to be a challenging job, I would imagine, but thank you for the work that you do.
You're welcome, yeah.
I think Representative Bishop might have had a question.
I do. I know that it seems that ASHA's criticism includes concern about whether it's really individuals' thoughts or is it the facilitators or prompters' thoughts that are being conveyed. To me, it seemed like the prompts, Shasta, that the assistance you were providing was a very light touch, if you will. There was no doubt in my mind, Chris, that you were communicating with us and it was not Shasta. In other situations, do those prompts look a little, or that assistance look stronger? Or is greater assistance needed for other communicators that has caused ASHA to call it into question?
I'm going to defer to Chris because
Sure.
you've had more communication partners than I've trained, so I feel like you're more of an expert in this. And then if you want me to chime in, Chris, you can give me the green light.
One.
Yes. Sometimes. I.
Quý dạy.
Will.
Anh yêu quý dạy.
Need.
Anh yêu quý dạy.
Firmer. Pressure. Yes, sometimes I will need
Yeah,
firmer pressure.
Do you want to speak to
I
the
know quý dạy.
piece about
Quý dạy.
why
You can say
ASHA
no.
thinks what they think or why their stance is what it is? That was the part two of your question, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and whether it looks different for different communicators and the level of prompting assistance.
We're gonna have to put a Sue. We're never done here.
Yes. It. Looks. Different.
See how? Yeah, I do, yeah.
Each.
Yeah.
Typer. Yes, it looks different for each typer.
We see your
I'll
eye.
share an example of just from my own experience. So one of the other people that I'm supporting their communication with, the way his muscles work, consider more low tone. So there's not like a really forceful muscle movement. So that support looks completely different from Chris, where he's really the boss of moving my hand around, if that makes sense. And as to like Asha's like digging their heels on their stance, I don't know why they're doing that. And if you see one of the back pages, which is, a list of studies, peer-reviewed publications, it really doesn't make sense why they're taking a stance that they are.
So with the
Yeah, there's a QR code.
Yeah.
Don't give it fun, it's the
You
being.
wanna
Leave the being.
pull it up on your
Yeah,
phone.
Yeah,
I know.
it's very helpful to have those resources for us.
Even me, I know.
So
I know you're right.
what we're looking at here is a resolution that was offered by Representative Burt and others, that is urging ASHA to reconsider their position. So it's helpful to have these other resources. It's very helpful, Chris, to see how,
So you
the assistance of a communication assistant for you, really has helped you to open up your entire life, and open us up to you, and vice versa. That I think that's been wonderful over the course of time, and I've known you for a while now, so I've seen how you have progressed through your career, and now with Green Mountain Self Advocates. So congratulations on your achievements for sure. And we really appreciate you all being here this morning. I just noticed Representative Noyce did have his hand up, right?
Yeah, just quick.
Yeah,
I was just wondering about how technology, like advances in technology has helped with communication. And is there, do you see new technologies being helpful in helping you communicate? whether like AI or, I mean, I think I heard you were using that as part of it, but, you know, yeah, so just, is there stuff coming that will be helpful in your communication?
AI is a big one. Four. Working. A as a speaker. AI is a big one for working as a speaker.
Yeah, we see, I let me know.
I can imagine that from sort of your days in second grade, like the rest of us, to now, things have definitely changed, I would imagine. Thank you so much for being here today, Chris, and Sharon and Shasta as well. We really appreciate you sharing your story with us and how communication has changed your life and how you want to make sure that others have this opportunity. So thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We see, I
I was just wondering,
call me out.
that
I
Chris
know.
might be a good thing to share your moth story that you wrote, for the Washington County Mental Health Annual Dinner. What was it?
It was the annual meeting. It's an audio file. I can send it to Lori Morse to share with you. I know we're over time, so yeah.
Is it short?
It's like
Yeah,
it's like 6 minutes.
Okay, so maybe sending the audio file would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. And we will definitely listen to it.
It's a good story.
Okay. Yeah, we look forward to it.
Ah,
We look forward to it. Thanks so much, Chris.
you're welcome.
All righty.
Yeah.
Let's pack up right now.
Gotcha.
We see, I.
I hope you get to have lunch someplace where you want to have.
I really want.
Okay. Okay. Okay, committee, we're going to move to S-239 in a couple minutes.
We see, I. We know ready.
Yeah.
No, you didn't need word. Oh, no, yeah.
Thank you.
We see, I. I don't have watch. We see, I. You too. We see, I.
I can go to the surgeon environment.
Oh, not yet, of course. I woke up with a headache now. I'm again.
I did too.
And then another.
It felt like a normal headache. I think it's starting with allergies already, unfortunately. Morning, Michelle. Good
Morning.
Okay, we're going to take up S-239. So we got a head start on you, Michelle.
Fabulous. I love that. That's great. And I did try to listen to some of the testimony, but I only got little bits and pieces. So I have a little bit of an idea of some of the changes that you'd like. But, and I did just want to let you know, I do have a hard stop because I have to be in the Senate at 10:30.
Yes.
But I can continue discussion. I'll just circle back around as soon as I can.
That sounds good. And we have you tomorrow too. So
Yes.
at some point tomorrow. Okay,
Would
so
it be helpful if I pop the draft up on the?
that sounds great. Eric, it would be also helpful if you sent Michelle the email that you sent us yesterday. But we'll get to that. So first, so we didn't change anything, need for support. Oh, actually we did. Right in the purpose statement, the first, so recommending change to modernize and reflect current practices. We want to incorporate in that first part. So we heard from a number of witnesses that they really think that the sort of requirement to report needs to be a bit more nuanced than it is now. And so we want to incorporate in that first paragraph somehow that we'd like to see the system recognize the potential for the need for support as an alternative to reporting. So it's for
So,
those.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on your point. So, not like reporting and then services, but like reporting, services prior to.
Right, so like.
Kind of report being made.
If there's an ability to recognize that it's really services that are necessary to alleviate the situation, that people have that there's an ability to intervene actually before reporting.
Okay.
You know, so a decision point essentially. And the changes that we did in Act 154 recognize that after the report has been made. And so we're trying to figure out, is there an ability? So we're going to ask the work group, is there an ability to recognize that before the report is made?
Okay.
So somehow incorporating that thought process into A.
Okay.
And then we went crazy on the working group members.
Right. I know you wanted to move some of the folks that were consulted with up into actual members.
So here goes. And people are going to keep me honest. And we varied back and forth whether we got 13 or 14, but I think we did land on 13.
Could I ask you just to look at C and tell me, and I can just put checks next to any of those people who are already listed and C that you're going to want to move to B, and then we can add people to B that maybe don't.
Okay, the only people to see we're moving to B are individuals with lived experience.
Okay.
All the rest of them we're keeping in C.
Okay.
We're changing B quite a bit.
Okay.
So we eliminated OPR.
Okay.
We kept the executive director for the Center for Crime Victim Services. We kept the domestic violence designee. We moved Attorney General to consult with.
Okay.
We deleted the chief administrative judge. The thinking behind that is this is all prior to a Chin kind of situation. We said one member from DCF. Okay. This is what my notes look like on the second page. So people are gonna have to give me the executive director of Prevent Child Abuse we kept. The Vermont Child Youth and Family Advocate or Deputy Advocate, we added or Deputy Advocate.
Okay.
Okay, we dealt with Vermont, I'm glad Ray is not here because I told her I would be able definitely to understand what I wrote. We added Defender General. I can read that one. We added, the Parent-Child Center Network, representative from Parent-Child Center Network. These are all under people who are on the work group.
Okay. And then I'll just, because I'm not necessarily familiar maybe with some of these organizations, is that the, do you know, is that the exact name of that?
It's
I can Google.
PCCN, yeah, Vermont, VP. It is PCCN, Vermont
Okay.
Parent-Child Center Network. Yes. We have law enforcement with specific representation from,
Appointed by the,
thank you,
appointed by the, board.
Vermont Law Enforcement Advisory Board,
Yep.
the chair of the Vermont.
Yeah.
We're being specific because that person is a specific person that,
So you want it to be any certified law enforcement officer, but the person is appointed by the LAEB?
yes, except for it's not any law enforcement officer. It's a law enforcement officer with, who has served on a special investigations unit.
Okay.
Okay. The two individuals with lived experience, we would like one of them to be appointed by the Office of Child, Youth and Family Advocate from their advisory board. And was that the official name of their advisory board, Dan?
Just have it open here. It's the Law Enforcement Advisory Board.
Law enforcement, no, the Office of Child, Youth and Family
Oh, I'm
Advocate.
sorry. Yes.
Is it just called the,
Yeah, it's the advisory, I'll look it up.
okay, thank you. No, it's all right. And the other person,
Advisory Council,
Yeah, Advisory Council. Thank you.
Child, Youth and Family Advisory Council.
remind me what PRC is. Anybody remember what PRC is? I wrote.
Parent representation.
Oh, parent, that's, yes, thank you. The other, person with lived experience to be appointed by the Parent Representation Center.
Child, Youth and Family Advisory Council.
Okay. We are looking for, we're actually wanting to be more specific about not just lived experience. So we want one person with lived experience to be a person who experienced abuse or neglect, and the other person to be a parent or guardian or family member who was, I don't know how to put this in your terms, but wrongfully accused.
Okay.
And that's the
Who do
person
you
from
want appointing?
the Parent Representation Center will be the one, the wrongfully accused one. And the Office of Child, Youth and Family Advocate Advisory, what did you say? With the board or committee?
Council.
Council,
Council.
neither, okay. That would be the person who had experienced abuse or neglect.
Can I dig in a little bit on in terms of who the PRC would appoint when you, I get the concept,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to think about how to specifically identify that. It would be someone who was reported, investigated, but unsubstantiated, or I'm just trying to think of what is the kind of trigger.
Yeah.
there.
And she.
I think unsubstantiated,
Okay.
yeah. I'm also, as I'm saying that, I'm also thinking that, I know that that group has also had folks who honestly never got any conclusion. You know, so there were cases or there were reports and nothing ever came of it, but they never really knew what the outcome was. But I think that's probably too amorphous to try to figure out how to say. So I guess I would go in unsubstantiated. Yeah, sorry. I just had to talk through that in my head. And a representative from Children's Mental Health Services of the designated agencies.
Say that again.
A representative of the designated agencies who works in children's mental health.
And who would appoint?
Vermont Care Partners. And, folks, help me out with, Dr. Metz. Is he the person who is the chair of the,
Who's one of the co-chair?
of which board? Is that the Law Enforcement Advisory Board?
On Citizens Advisory Board?
Dr. Metz?
Yes. It's the DCF's Vermont Citizens Advisory Board.
Okay, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, I have, sorry, it was down here. I knew that we had it, but I ran out of space up top. I've done pretty good though so far. This is also on the work group. This is the, the physician co-chair of the Vermont Citizens Advisory Board.
The other co-chair is not a physician, so we want to make sure. And they appoint him.
And his affiliation is with the Child Safe Program too, which
I'm
is,
sorry, say what?
and his affiliation too is overlapping with the Child Safe Program, which is
Yes,
important.
Yeah. and he's a pediatrician.
Yeah.
So he covers like multiple boxes.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay. All right, committee, did I miss anybody? Did I say Defender General?
Yes.
Okay.
Should I just put Defender General or designee, or would you want it to be the juvenile defender? Or?
I'm sorry, yes, the juvenile defender, yeah. And Vermont Principals Association, I'm sorry, a educator appointed by the, or not educator,
Principal.
we decided a principal, yeah. A principal appointed by Vermont Principals Association. Okay.
Now mine looks like
Question.
yours.
Yeah. It's much neater, it's much neater.
No, I can't beat, a pencil, all this technology, but hard copy and a pencil.
We're gonna say that.
Regarding the principal, I think yesterday our conversation was about appointment of a principal, but did Jay not say that he had someone on their staff who is a past principal of 15 years who seems to bring a lot of expertise in this area? Was there a specific individual or just leaving it?
He recommended just principal.
No, he did talk to somebody on his staff who was a previous principal. I think we just keep it with principal, yeah.
It was a woman and her service as principal might have been out of state, so it might not be directly ours.
So I think I've caught everybody. And then, we added, to the consulting, the Office of Racial Equity. And then we left all the rest, and consult with, also the, Child Development Division of DCF. We shouldn't have to tell them to consult with each other, but we probably do. Okay. All right. I think that is it, or we'll be able to tell when we get a written copy back. So then in D, we have,
I did hear the part y'all wanted to do an interim report and then have a later.
sort of an interim presentation, like by April 1.
April 1.
Right, April 1 of 2027, a status report presentation, status, it doesn't have to be a written report, I guess, is what we're trying to get at.
Right.
Presentation. And then, the the final report be due October 1.
Okay.
The time for second half of the session or the biennium.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now we move to what Eric had. Did you send it to her?
I did, yes.
Okay. All right, so we wanted to flesh out a little bit more about what's the work product that we're expecting.
Okay.
So we think that Eric's statement does it, but we added one to the bottom. And this isn't, it's not on air unless you added it to yours. Did
No.
you check? Okay,
Oh, project.
so,
I'm just trying to see how I can open it and. Do you want me to pop it up on the screen if I can? Or,
we all have it.
okay, all right, I am looking at it.
Okay, so at the, I think he's got like 4 things.
Right.
3, okay, we added a 4. The one said, the other one is any alternatives to reporting when it's in the best interest of the child. It's one of the additional things. Is this mine?
I'm sorry, any alternatives to reporting?
When it's in the best interest of the child.
And you want specific statutory sections called out or?
Yes. In that the very first bullet that Eric has, we want 49, 12, and 13 called out.
Okay.
We're gonna place that in the section 1 under A where it says group for the purpose of examining the existing statutes, just naming the statutes there.
Naming the statutes, yeah. And then we kept everything else the same, except for, we don't need to tell them what constitutes a quorum, I guess, unless we feel like we have to. Majority constitutes quorum. I think it's not.
It's your
I think, yeah, all right. But we need to add the, in the sort of standard language about individuals, the per diems. And DCF has agreed to pay the per diems out of their current budget.
Okay.
And folks, we started talking about number of meetings. I didn't write anything down about number of meetings.
We didn't really.
We didn't. Yeah. So we're giving them extra time. Because it's a bigger undertaking than I think originally envisioned, maybe, or whatever. Once we started hearing testimony, we realized it's a bigger job. But we also know that there's not a lot of room for additional reimbursement. But so we're talking about they have to have a meeting by August 1st, August 15th, or something like August 15th. So there's 12. 15. Folks okay with 12 meetings?
Questions about the mandate section and Eric's language and all.
Yeah.
And it'll be much easier for me to see it in front of us, I think, when it's laid out in writing within the bill, but examining the statute and looking for in particular like alternative rules surrounding reporting when it's in the best interest of the child. That sounds good, but I wonder if the other asks of how we are precisely asking them to look at those, 49, 12, and 13, like who's on the list and like definitions and like I don't know if those other specifics in terms of directing them how to evaluate the statute are important to spell out a little bit further.
Well, give us some suggestions. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, in our I think I would have to like write it out and sit with it longer, but I mean, of course, one of the most obvious asks is who to include, as we stated in previous meetings on the list, like, and updated definitions with law enforcement versus police officer. And so I'll work on language with that. But I don't know if, and maybe other witnesses I'd have to look back to, but certain things like the definitions, like very specific asks of how we want to edit 49, 12, and 13. So I can come back to that.
Okay. I just want to be careful. I don't want to predetermine
Yeah,
their work.
absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be a balance of like leaving it open, but also making sure that when they come back to us, we are getting answers to the questions that we had in the
Exactly,
beginning.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
yeah,
And what I want to make sure I want to make sure everybody's understanding what you're saying. So you're saying that it feels a little too broad to you to just say examine
exactly.
4912 and 4913.
Exactly. Although I appreciate the like nuance we provided with, we are curious about alternatives to mandatory reporting when it feels appropriate and safe, and in best practice for the child's like health and well-being. So that's a good example of a very specific ask. But I feel like there's a couple more specific asks to weave in there that we've been describing throughout our testimony here.
Okay.
So I'll dig in more about that.
Okay.
And I'm happy to just try to encapsulate a little bit of what already exists in 12 and 13 there, which I think, if you read the statutes, the issues present themselves pretty clearly
Yeah.
around, updating,
Exactly.
the definitions.
Yeah.
Who are the people who should be mandatory
Exactly.
reporters? So,
Yeah, that
the
was great.
standard for
Yeah,
reporting.
that would be really helpful. I think
Things like that.
that's
And then
exactly
you can kind
what
of build off
I'm
of that if I've missed anything.
Yeah, I think the standard for reporting is one that stands out to me.
Sure.
That is pretty broad.
Mhm.
And we had a couple witnesses testify to the feeling like there had potentially been unintended consequences of the changes that were made a few years ago in terms of the volume of reporting that started happening and the person from the Principals Association, referenced somebody's career who was cut short because they had responded and done all the right things, but the state's attorney prosecuted them because they didn't report, but their superior had reported. And I guess there was some big case. I don't remember it specifically, but person was prosecuted twice, and the first time was a hung jury, I think he said, and person ended up, resigning, even though according to the testimony, the person had taken the actions to protect the child and reported it, and the superintendent had actually reported it to DCF, but the principal didn't. And that person thought they were fulfilling their duty, but they weren't, according to the.
They reported to the superintendent? Okay, but they didn't report directly to DCF?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so there was I guess a pretty public case about that. I don't know when it was. He didn't say when it was, but it wasn't like just recently. It was back a while ago, but he said that caused quite a lot of concern among education professionals. And so we want them to not just think sort of inside what the box is right now. We want them to think about how has child welfare progressed in the last decade, and moving forward, we are wanting to make sure that we're as trauma informed as possible, and as looking at obviously the impact of poverty on people, and not looking at poverty as a abusive situation. And so I think that we have a good mix of people who will bring that to the discussion table. And we're just trying to, one of the things that we also talked about yesterday is whether the exclusion for religious professionals should continue to exist, and I know that that's a big one. And, but I think that's one of the ones that you were specifically speaking to yesterday, Esme. And, so I'm not sure I want to, we want them to look kind of like what you were just talking about, Michelle, you know, when you were saying like, who's the reporters? Should exclusions exist or
I'll
not
just-
exist?
I'll just look at it. I mean, I think there's key policy choices, right, that are kind of laid out in there, right? What are the penalties for not reporting? Should there be an exception to the requirement for reporting under certain circumstances, and who should that be for? Or should there not be?
Exactly.
And so I think it'll help maybe if I kind of scope those out, and then you can just tweak them a little and
Okay.
build on it if there's things I didn't cover.
Okay, I think that sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just felt like, you know, the Senate version was a little lacking in detail in terms of what, we wanted to provide more direction to the group, but also didn't want them to go, we didn't want them to go into 154 and everything that happens after a report, because we've already done that. Right. And you've done that, have a whole new law about it. So, so we really now are, you know, focused on the before and during, aspects of it. So, other thoughts from anybody else about, what we can ask Michelle to think about in this next draft? You have 12 minutes.
All right.
You can
fabulous.
sound like, right?
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. So, committee members, I did hear back from Mark Redmond, and he actually wants to see the bill before he makes a commitment. And so I'll just let him know that we have a revised version coming, maybe tomorrow.
Sure. Actually, you never know how the day goes, but I have a little bit of time after floor today. And so this will be at the top of my list to work on that. And my hope will be that I can move it through and send you something sometime today.
Okay.
Yep, so that you can kind of look at it. And if you want to make any tweaks before I come in tomorrow, just let me know.
Okay. All right. Thanks a bunch. You.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to take a little break. Okay, so, committee, we have a little bit of extra time here, so we're gonna take a break. After we do this, we are, at 10:30, we're going to hear from, ASHA. Well, people representing ASHA, but the Vermont